Hi ladies and gentlemen, and Krzysztof the Polish Geek welcomes you to another video game review. Another video game that I truly love. Another of my favorite video games, Assassin's Creed 2. I mean, this is technically the Ezio collection because Brotherhood and Revelations honestly feel at this point more like expansions than true sequels they originally were released, and we'll very much talk about it in the review. But so yes, we're gonna talk about the best Assassin's Creed game ever, Assassin's Creed 2, because Ubisoft and Assassin's Creed have practically became a punching bag for a lot of gamers, but I still love my Assassin's Creed, although let's face it, Assassin's Creed is not in a good place right now. Like, I haven't touched Shadows, not trashing that shit ever, and Mirage, well, it was kind of nostalgic when I first played it, and if you see my review of Mirage, I did kind of praise it, but upon subsequent playthroughs I just realized that it's not really that good. It's just that we all, including me, were just so hungry for an old nostalgic style Assassin's Creed game. And the city of Baghdad was admittedly pretty beautiful, but really, time shows that Assassin's Creed Mirage just isn't that good. And honestly, I think that at this point, Assassin's Creed franchise is another franchise that this should be retired at this point, because a couple of years ago I was basically begging for an Assassin's Creed set in Poland, either during the Teutonic Wars or during the time where Poland was taken over by Prussian Kingdom, Russia and Austria, like both amazing periods that do very much fit well into an Assassin's Creed game, but that's in the past now. Like, I'm very much done with that franchise and I'm just wish that was retired. But what all the fans of the Assassin's Creed can agree that if there is an Assassin's Creed game that can be considered straight up excellent, it's Assassin's Creed 2. I also really love Unity, although that's not very much detested upon the launch, and while Unity is very much my second favorite, only after Assassin's Creed 2, that one is still pretty divisive among the fans, even if I'm strictly on the positive side. But again, if there is an Assassin's Creed game that everyone loves and basically could be considered like a perfect Assassin's Creed game, it's Assassin's Creed 2. One thing is certain, whenever you quit playing the Assassin's Creed franchise early or late, if there is one thing that all the fans can agree on, and even gamers who don't really care much for the franchise, is that if there is an entry in the series that can be considered straight up excellent, it's Assassin's Creed 2. We all love the adventures of Ezio, his revenge quest to avenge his father Giovanni, as well as two brothers Federico and Petruccio, and then him becoming an assassin, and just the Italian setting in the Italian Renaissance, and just the rich lore of the Assassin's Creed franchise of conspiracy theories and historical events. So, as I've been saying, Assassin's Creed 2 is often rightfully very much still considered the greatest in the series, and for a very good reason, because the story of Ezio Auditore is just excellent. Say what you want about the graphics, gameplay mechanics or assassinations, which I think are great, but we'll get to that later. But the story of Assassin's Creed 2 is still the best in the series and among my favorite stories told in video games. And looking at plenty of the modern stories, it's just a shame that such amazing video game stories are so non-existent nowadays, because on surface level the story of Assassin's Creed 2 might seem like a simple revenge story of Ezio wanting to avenge his father and two brothers, but it's way deeper than that. First, who does love Ezio? He's considered the best Assassin's Creed protagonist for a reason. He's just such a great and likable character, and even if the series did have some pretty good protagonists later, none of them ever managed to have Ezio's charisma and likability. Like, the very minute you start controlling Ezio and running around the streets of Renaissance Florence, we immediately feel strong connection to Ezio, like we relate to him and wish we could know him personally. Then soon, his father and two brothers get accused of treason and sentenced to death, and Ezio swears revenge and discovers that his family belongs to the secret order of assassins, and of course becomes an assassin himself. When Ezio becomes an assassin, and then the story is just as much about him wanting to avenge his family, but It's actually much more about learning the ways of assassins, their philosophy, embrace who he is, and his character development.
22 years ago, I stood where I stand now and watched my loved ones die, betrayed by those I had called friends. Vengeance clouded my mind. It would have consumed me, were it not for the wisdom of a few strangers who taught me to look past my instincts. They never preached answers, but guided me to learn from myself.
This all takes place over the span of 20 years, and by the end of the game, Ezio is a completely different person, yet all the traits that we loved about him remain with him throughout his journey, from a spirited young man who loves causing mischief to a wise mentor and member of the Assassin Order. Everything in the story is so carefully thought out and well written, like it's not common for a video game to happen over a span of the quarter of the character's life. The game makes a very wise choice of actually starting with you doing quests for your father and two brothers, and it's a very nice way of making you get to know them and actually care when Rodrigo Borgia has them executed. We are not angry because we feel bad for Ezio, we actually feel and share his anger this way. Combined, how this doesn't just affect Ezio, but his mother and sister as well, with Ezio's mother completely losing her mind for years after this traumatic event. The supporting characters are really great too. Some of them are historical figures like Leonardo da Vinci and Niccolò Machiavelli, and they have a great effect on the story and the philosophy of the Assassin Order. This game probably delves far deeper into the lore of Assassins and Templars more than any other game in the series, because let's face it, I don't think many people care about Templar assassin lore anymore. They just want to get transported to a historical setting and assassinate targets. But this is not what could be said about Assassin's Creed 2. The lore of the Assassins and Templars was an essential part of the story in Assassin's Creed 2. And I also got to talk about the Templars and assassination targets. One of the major themes of Assassin's Creed 2 is that Templars have so far strayed from their ideals. Most of them are just power-hungry assholes, and hence why assassinating them feels so satisfying, and not like in the first game where they were committing an immoral act upon their assassination. This time they get whole backstory in the database, generally a story that shows what a terrible person each of them is, and some show up in several scenes before assassination, which makes it even easier to hate them and be so eager to assassinate them. And the Grand Master now is Rodrigo Borgia, who is still the best villain in the franchise. This guy is just a power-hungry maniac, and as you look at him, this guy very much feels like a power-hungry maniac that he is. And the game does such a wonderful job of making the player hate him, and the final boss battle with him is still my favorite boss battle in all of Assassin's Creed games, especially how you fistfight him at the vault in the Vatican City.
All powerful. You think a couple of ancient relics can harm him?
The modern day story is actually quite interesting. I doubt that any of us were really interested in the modern day stuff after Desmond died, but here, when Desmond is the main character, it's actually quite interesting and really nice how the modern day stuff very much ties into the past and into the greater lore of the franchise. In general, during Assassin's Creed 2, the lore of the franchise as a whole is actually at its best. Later games, lore-wise, were up and down. Sometimes it was still very interesting, like in Unity and Black Flag, but other times, let's face it, a lot of people only played it for another historical setting, not really for the lore. In Assassin's Creed 2 though, lore is among the best and most interesting things about the game. I will have to say this though, it does kinda feel creepily real now, retroactively, in how mainstream media very much lies to the public and how people have become so tribal in their political views, but let's not get into it further though. The graphics objectively do kind of look a little dated, and they're certainly not as good as they were in the later Assassin's Creed games, especially Assassin's Creed Unity. But again, Unity is one of the most beautiful looking games in existence. Objectively, graphics in Assassin's Creed 2 do look a little dated, as I just said. But for me, that's not really a problem at all, because I can easily put an old PlayStation 1 or PlayStation 2 game and just have a great time without giving two shits about outdated graphics. And the setting is also very interesting and excellent because the game depicted Renaissance Italy in all its splendor, paying such an attention to detail that seeing its landmarks in person felt almost like a deja vu, especially if you've been to some of those places. Like, if I'm being objective, again, it's not as amazing as the Unity recreation of Paris, but that's largely because of age. Plus, as much as I love Unity and Paris, Unity was very much only confined to Paris, whereas Assassin's Creed 2 explores various Italian cities, and it all works amazingly well for the story and the open world. And still very much, the game amazingly manages to recreate the Renaissance version of famous Italian cities, including Florence, villages of Tuscany and Romania, Venice, and finally Rome, even if action in Rome is far more linear and you can't explore the city. Until Brotherhood, which in turn is practically only in Rome on the other hand. The gameplay is still great, and for the most part it holds up so well. Like Assassin's Creed 2 took everything that worked very well in the first Assassin's Creed and truly refined it to make the gameplay much more fun and less tedious. While first Assassin's Creed does have a good and compelling story, and Altair was a good protagonist, and assassinating your target certainly was a lot of fun, but let's face it, overall gameplay though was pretty boring, especially on subsequent playthroughs. Like, it was just going around one of the 3 cities around Jerusalem to learn of your targets, and while certainly giving them their just desserts felt super satisfying, often getting to them was very boring and soon got old. It was just practically doing the same thing over and over again. Assassin's Creed 2 though actually feels so natural, and generally it's not just Ezio walking around the city and asking around, but the story actually organically arriving at the point where you're supposed to assassinate your targets, and it never gets boring because nothing feels repetitive. Everything feels so organic and well thought out. Like, every single mission feels unique and involves things like spying on your future targets or rescuing your friends from Templar clutches and talking to your friends and learning more about the lore.
Fighting that's been going on. This place has started to get a bit rough around the edges.
Parkour is really excellent as well, and it totally set up a standard for what parkour in Assassin's Creed should be. Just walking on top of the buildings of Renaissance Italy is amazing, and then looking at whole cities, and then climbing on top of those buildings is amazing, and then when you climb to the top of the building and walk around rooftop, you just look at the cities. And the image actually of Ezio standing at the top of the building and looking down became very much an iconic symbol of Assassin's Creed franchise as a whole. The combat is awesome, still my favorite combat in all of Assassin's Creed, either here or in Unity. While in Assassin's Creed Unity it certainly felt most realistic and authentic, here in Assassin's Creed 2 on the other hand, it's the most fun and the most when you feel like a really badass assassin, and admittedly pretty easy because of that. Like, you have your assassin blade to assassinate and the Renaissance Italian rapier, and when you fight enemies with that Italian rapier, you can do various things such as walk towards an enemy who isn't looking and just stab him in the back regardless of what level you are at the moment and what level they are, which will result in their immediate death. Like, assassinations here, I say, are still the best and most classic Assassin's Creed. In addition to also being so satisfying, since, as I already said when I talked of the story, majority of Ezio's assassination targets are assholes who very much deserve it, and assassinating them feels so satisfying. Or, I love how when you fight the enemies, you can actually grab them and slit their throat or push them off high buildings. Again, it does require sometimes suspension of disbelief, like when Ezio only has his fists and he can still take out several enemies armed with swords. Speaking of fist fighting, I love how when you beat up an enemy they lie on the ground and move clearly alive and well, but savagely beaten by Ezio. You can pick them up and throw them in a haystack for fun or into the water, but still, combat here is really awesome. Sometimes you can also when your enemy is fighting one of your friends, you can actually walk up towards them from the back and just stab them and kill them with a single stab. You truly feel like an invincible assassin, and weaker enemies sometimes literally run away after seeing how Ezio can defeat their stronger compatriots. And stealth, which is also one of the most classic things in Assassin's Creed, is pretty fun, but again, pretty easy admittedly, and does require lots of suspension of disbelief, such as you blend in the crowd and can hire a group of hot girls to just blend in them and guards won't even see you, or maybe get distracted by hot ladies, who knows. But this is actually funny because in his assassin clothes, Ezio very much stands out, but who cares? For the sake of the gameplay, just suspend your disbelief, or how they can see you, but as soon as you run away, it's like they forgot you quickly and keep going on with their business while you keep on eavesdropping on their pretty interesting and important conversations. In some ways though, it does truly make you feel like you play as a secret assassin working for the secret underground order that fights for freedom. Because again, as I said, 2 very much puts huge emphasis on the lore, which did kind of disappear in some of the later games. Assassin's Creed 2 also spawned 2 sequels, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood and Assassin's Creed Revelations, but they honestly at this point feel much more like expansions, because they're also pretty great games and very much essential chapters in Ezio's further life and adventures. Like Revelations also contains flashbacks to Altair, and it nicely ties Ezio and Altair's journeys together and much more elaborates on the lore of Assassin's Creed this way. In many ways, as I just said, Brotherhood and Revelations feel more like necessary expansions as opposed to sequels. Yes, they certainly have upgraded graphics and more variety of moves in combat, but story-wise, as I said, they just feels like chapters, like next to chapters in Ezio's life. Like Brotherhood happens right after Assassin's Creed 2 and fully moves action to Rome, and the main villain now is Cesare Borgia, the son of Rodrigo Borgia, who might be my personal favorite Assassin's Creed villain actually. Yes, Rodrigo is the best one and certainly more intimidating and more evil, but Cesare is more entertaining, but both are really great villains. Brotherhood is mostly confined to Rome, although the ending does take place in Spain, while Revelations moves the action all the way to Constantinople in Turkey, with Ezio now as an older assassin and a mentor. How many times did anyone ever got a chance to play through full character's life, from young adult years all the way to elderhood? And as I said, using Apple of Eden, there are several sequences of playing as Altair, which are just awesome. And as I said, the game perfectly ties up the stories of 2 assassins from 2 different centuries together.
Requiescat in pace, Altair.
Though, as much as I think they are essential chapters in Ezio's life and very much should be played, this is also where modern day stuff started going downhill, like the reveal that Lucy Stillman is a traitor. Yeah, I hate that. It makes all the scenes of Desmond and her so much less enjoyable. And you know what? That wasn't even the original intention actually. Writers got into dispute with a voice actress and it was a way to write her out of the game, but maybe then kill off a character without making them a traitor. Like, that felt so forced and I truly hate that. It's a complete character assassination. Thankfully though, it's not revealed until Assassin's Creed 3 actually, so I don't take any points away from those 2 games, because Lucy Stillman's death at the end of Brotherhood is actually a very sad and tragic moment. Actually, much more tragic for me than Desmond's death later at the end of Assassin's Creed 3. It could be a great story point, but making Lucy a traitor in my eyes is a complete character assassination. Again, thankfully it's not really revealed until the 3rd game. And still, for Ezio's stories, as I just said, Brotherhood and Revelations are perfect and very much essential chapters to play. I very much suggest playing them right after you beat Assassin's Creed 2, because again at this point they're more like expansions than sequels. And makes sense that, as I already said before, PS4 re-release just released all three on one disc as Ezio Collection. It's really the best way to play them anyway. They're practically like Lord of the Rings trilogy, one big game split into 3 chapters. Assassin's Creed 2 was really excellent back when it came out in 2009, and it still holds up so well story-wise. Debatable if it does graphic and gameplay-wise. It very much does for me, but I guess it might not to some people who just can't get over some older graphics, but still, while Assassin's Creed Unity is very much my second favorite in the franchise, nothing beats an excellent story of Ezio Auditore. And not only it's the best story in all of the Assassin's Creed franchise, but actually I think you could make a case for a good contender for one of the best video game stories ever. And if I had to rank the Assassin's Creed games, it goes Assassin's Creed 2 as number 1, and Brotherhood and Revelations very much go into that as well. As I said, at this point they are more like expansions than true sequels anyway, and very essential parts of the story. So yeah, number 1 easily Assassin's Creed 2, with Brotherhood and Revelations kind of going into that as expansions. Then Assassin's Creed Unity, then Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Assassin's Creed Black Flag at number 4, and I reviewed it as well. It's in the video description too. And number 5, it's Assassin's Creed Origins, and you can betcha that I'm totally reviewing Origins and Odyssey at some point, because I already reviewed Unity and Black Flag, and as I said, both are very much in the video description, and now I reviewed 2. So you can betcha that I'm totally reviewing Odyssey and Origins as well at this point, at some point. But here is my review of Assassin's Creed 2, still the best one in the franchise. And as I constantly been saying, if there is a game in the Assassin's Creed franchise that can unite all the Assassin's Creed fans and even plenty of gamers who just love amazing storytelling, then it's Assassin's Creed 2, story of Ezio Auditore de Firenze. So, thank you ladies and gentlemen for checking out this review. Press the like button, please subscribe to this channel, and I will talk to you soon in another video. Talk to you then, bye!